And foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashem, Yahushua Bashem, Rakakwadash. Yahweh is to this world ignorantly caused God. Yahushua is to this world ignorantly caused Jesus. Bahashem means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Qudash means holy. And that's on the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Today's video, I wanted to go into how the basics are important. Okay, and every so often we should be going into those basic lessons because every single day you got new Israelites waking up, right? And I can attest that, if I go to my analytics and I go into, videos that are getting views, videos that are, months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago that I've made are being watched, right? So it makes me think of the scripture where it talks about how, the Most High's word does not go out void. This is Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 11. It says, "So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it." Right? So the Most High's word, okay, does not go out void. Okay, and this translates to his prophets today doing the work, spreading the gospel. All these YouTube videos, these works that we've put out, none of that goes out void because it can always be used in the future by new believers. So with that in mind, the basics are important because new people are constantly waking up. Okay, waking up to the fact that they're Israelites, the fact that, the Lord, his true name, the name of the Son, their appearance, who we are as a nation, what's happening in the world, is biblically written, it's prophecy. We live in Babylon. Every single day, people are waking up to that type of information. And, that information, when you're in the world, is completely just mind-blowing. It's literally like a revelation, like, wow, why, like, it all makes sense now. I can remember me when I woke up, how, just the fact that the name wasn't Jesus Christ and he wasn't white, blew my mind. So that right there shows you that, the basics are important. And we always have to keep the basics in mind, understanding that new people are constantly going to be coming in. And, you by me making that video, I'm going into how salvation is only for the Israelites. And, majority of people that are, well seasoned, have been in the truth for a while, they know that, right? But you got to account for the new believers, right? So this is Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 12. It says, "When for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat." Right? So when you first, start being taught, you get taught, that milk, okay? The basic scriptures. Okay, the salvation is only for Israel. The America is Babylon. The, how we have to keep the commandments to the best of our ability. Those are the milk of the scriptures, the basic starting foundational blocks. And, that's important. An important thing about a house is that, with no foundation, the house crumbles. So those basics, those foundations is what really keeps you pushing, as you keep on learning. You always go back to the foundations. And like I said, it refers to it as milk. It says and not of strong meat. Because, if you were to give a baby, meat, the baby would choke on it. Okay, and that's the same thing, with this word. If you, give a new believer the breakdown to 2nd Ezra 11, the breakdown, to Daniel, the 9th chapter, they're going to just be completely, unable to digest it. They're going to hear you, but they're not going to understand anything you're saying because they're not, spiritually equipped for that type of wisdom. It says that, verse 13, "For everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are full of age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Right, so strong meat is to those that are full of age, going into, those that have been walking for a while, have been in this truth for, a decent amount of time, and have seen the ups and downs and the bug outs, and, have just tested the test of time, endured the test of time. So, there's a process, to dealing with the Lord. You first start with that milk, and after he sees you can tolerate that milk, and he starts leveling you up in the spirit, right? He starts giving you grapes, he starts giving you strawberries, he starts giving you chicken, beef. Next thing you know, you're out here chewing the damn bone. And I'm just joking around, but you get what I'm saying. But let's get this in 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 12. It says, verse 11, it says, "For if that which is done away was glorious, much more that which remaineth is glorious. Seeing then that we have such hope, we use great plainness of speech." And that's another thing is, I notice a lot of times, brothers will be going into the scriptures and, trying to sound all deep and, make things complicated. And that's the last thing you want to be doing. Right, it is constantly talked about how, a master, one of the pros about, a master and a skill is that he makes it look simple. And, as being prophets, Lord willing, I'm a part of that number. That's what us brothers are supposed to be doing is, using great plainness of speech, breaking down the scriptures as easy as possible, not making it complicated, or overly using extreme big words. No, making it as simple as possible. Because when you be using those extravagant words, like extravagant, a brother that was in the world, right? You think about some Jake in the hood, then let's say the Lord decided to wake him up. He ain't gonna know what extravagant or some type of big ass word means, right? You gonna leave him confused when you say those type of things. So that's why you just want to, use plain speech. Words that are easy to understand. And, those long, deep words are actually stumbling blocks. You might have somebody not fully understand, the word because you out here fucking complicating it. So that's another thing we always got to keep in mind is the basics and keeping it simple. Don't complicate the gospel. It's already simple enough. I'll get one more in Isaiah. This was a quick hit. Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 21. I'll start at verse 20. Says, "And though Yahweh will give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner any more, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers." All right, so going into how the Lord has preserved the prophets, okay, the true shepherds that are going to give you the right path. "And thine ear shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left." And that's the point is that, that's what we're supposed to be doing as the shepherds, is guiding the sheep. Okay, and if you're giving the sheep, complicated directions, you're telling the sheep, go left, go right, do this, do that, just making it difficult, you're ultimately a bad shepherd. So, going back to the point of the video, you got to guide the sheep on the right path. And the right path ultimately is the straight path, the straight gate, a path of difficulty. And it's very simple. It's keep the commandments of Yahweh and have the faith of Yahushai. That's as basic as it gets. Keep the commandments of Yahweh and have the faith in Yahushai and endure unto the end. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Just was in my spirit how, the basics, something that I'm going to start going into again. Just started going over all those topics, going into, the foundational scriptures that, when things get hard, you rely upon. And ultimately, are the building blocks of this thing. So, Hopefully this is edifying. With that, and give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem, Rokak Wadash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Shalom, Tilak, Shalom.